Okay, so let's try just reaching up, pulling the head back. And then up and out. And turning the head. Hands behind, just gripping the fingers and straightening the arms, just really pull the collarbones away from the sternum, and then rotating the head. And the other way. Separating the fingers, hands on the hips, and now making the big circle with the whole back. So the head's inscribing a circle, trying to keep the buttocks on the seat. the other way. Put the hands on the kidneys between the bottom rib and the pelvis. Feel the heat of the hands seeping in and visualize it going into the kidneys. Feel the dantian. The kidneys are sort of attached to the dantian. They're like two silos, storage reservoirs behind the dantian. Use the breathing as well. So as you breathe in, you can visualize you're directing the breath down into the kidneys. Let's just rub the hands again. And we'll put them on the sacroiliacs. On the sacrum. Bring the hands round and just place them on the hips. So feel that the chunkiness of the hips. We visualize that they're much chunkier than they actually are. Then down to the knees, rubbing the knees. Leaning forwards, leaning back. And alternating. So now there's a twist going on in the spine. And rubbing the hands a bit. And then the hands on the sternum. So you can think the thymus or the whole bone. I'm limited because I've got this microphone here. Feel the thymus swelling into the hands. And let's just turn the head a little bit and feel it pulling from the thymus or the muscles around it. Now let's rub the hands again. And we'll place them at the back of the head. Hands on the back of the skull. Thumbs touch and dig into the skull. where the neck spine comes into the cranium. So you can really get a feeling that your arms can push your head upwards and stretch the neck. And then just move the jaw around, so side to side, just to loosen it. And rubbing the hands again. And we'll do the eyes. Arming. You can let the head sway and joggle the jaw if you want. And then the hands just above the head and up. Eyes open just a little. Hands out to the sides. And now really twisting the eyes and head, so looking down at the left fingers. And then eyes looking down at the right fingers, trying to keep the head still in the middle. And then the eyes still in the middle and snaking the hands. Pull the hands back just enough so you can just about see them with your peripheral vision. And the hands out, up, and down into prayer. Now let's grab the stick if you've got it. If not, you can just use the arms. So first behind the back, beneath the arms. Then bringing it up to behind the neck. Trying not to let that point we've just been working on collapse. So trying not to let the head come forwards too much. And then turning. Pushing the movement to its limit. And just trying to feel that elastic stretch at the limit. And push into it. So I get to the limit and I try and keep pushing into it and let it spring me back. And then a few tilting, feeling the two sides, one side really stretching, the other one concertinaing. holding the stick at the ends, just above the head, bringing it down and then up and back. And then the hands in the middle of the stick and pulling and pushing. So pulling first. Creating a gentle, continuous pressure that becomes an energy which I can direct around my body with my mind and little wriggles of the body. Pushing the hands together. Pulling them apart again. And pushing them together again. Put the stick down. And now let's do a few of the stretching. Elbow pulling back, hand reaching forwards. Imagine resistance. Imagine you're pulling a rubber strap towards you and pushing one away from you. Then up and down a bit. Now let's try a bit of the butterfly. Then the legs straight. Now kneeling. Sitting on the heels. Just reach up and then lean forwards, reaching with the hands all the way to stretch the spine. Back up. Separate the feet so you can sit down on the floor between them. And then into the fetus again. Up. We'll lie back, but first feel the arm. So if I really reach out from my back, so my shoulder blade going down the arm, then this front part here beneath the collarbone can really hollow in and relax. So when I stretch from the back with the arm, the front of the shoulder empties. So we can feel that, we're introduced to that very early in Tai Chi. Now, when we work the legs, we want the same thing to happen. So let's lie back. And just cycling with the feet, but really feeling it pulling from the sacrum. So as I straighten the leg, it's like I'm pulling from the sacrum, and then I can feel the inside of the groin hollowing out the way the shoulder did. And then pulling the knees up and out. And then up into the sumo squat. Let's squat like Rob. So between, because this is so good just for stretching the sacrum across. Something really powerful about squatting down, having your dantian compacted by the posture and close to the ground. And then having it really stretching across the back. Full and empty. Fill one leg, and that enables the other one to release away. The leg releases away from the hip, but especially I want to try and feel the hip bone releasing away from the sacrum. So filling here allows the energy to flow out of this leg and then boomerang back, and that's what pulls me across. So I want to feel the filling sort of becoming compact and strong, and then the emptying, which is the releasing on the other side, the letting go. The letting go is the difficult phase, really, but it's made it much easier if you can really feel the filling leg. So you can't release until you've filled this leg. Now just becoming aware of the down of gravity. If I'm brave enough to allow my spine just to slot into that perfect down, then suddenly everything's intensified. Most of the time we're trying our best to not quite get there, because it's like when you get in it, you can't get out, or it's like you can't avoid reality. And it's this part of the spine, the sacrum and the lumbar spine, just needs to slot in. And suddenly the legs start hurting, the heart starts lifting, and you just feel charged up. Okay, now let's just do our exercise of tracing gravity. So the difficulty is where it splits. So you think, we've got the skeleton's got the descending spine, which splits at the sacrum into the hips and the legs. And then inside the dantian, the point of the body that it's most associated with, that you're closest to, is where the descending aorta splits into the two femoral arteries, the arteries that feed the legs. It's a place of splitting. The one becomes two. So I relax across here so that it can flow down the skeleton and my physical structure. And I have my mind here to help this point inside, again, split into the legs. So now let's just trace it. So reaching out, and then down the front, if you like. It's down the spine, but it feels like it's coming down your front. Then once you get to the hips, just split, reach backwards, and go down the legs, the backs of the legs, under the ground, and then up the front of the legs. And then again, splitting at the sacrum, the hips, and now bringing the hands up. Instead of bringing them up in front, think of pulling something over your head from behind, and then over the top and down the front, splitting, and now the legs, but you have to go down the back of the legs, and then up the front. Splitting at the hips, up the back, down the front, splitting at the hips, down the back of the legs, and the outside of the legs, and then up the front and the inside. Pulling down and into the belly, then it sort of pushes into the back, into the sacroiliacs, and you catch that as it comes out, down the legs, but the backs and the outsides, and then up the inside. One more. Up to the back. Coming in, down the front of the dantian, squeezing it through to the sacrum, sacroiliacs, down up, and then just into riding horse. And again, just let this come forwards a little bit to slot in to the field of gravity. So when you get this coming forwards, and then the sacrum can really pull down, then you get the lift up here. So the right posture will accentuate gravity and levity. You'll feel them both operating more strongly than you're used to. Let's try the figure of 8. So now tracing the figure of 8 with my weight. Yes, when I think of my body, the aspect that's most obvious really is its weight, its substance, its mass, its materiality. So here I can feel the weight moving around the foot. And now we just switch the mind to the energy, so the emptying. So that exercise we started with, where we filled this leg in order to let this leg reach out. So that's what we're going to feel now. So as I'm coming around this foot with my weight, this foot flushes out and then draws back. So it's a figure of 8 again. It's not quite so clear, the figure of 8, but it's being traced with the energy rather than the weight. The weight is going around one foot, the energy is coming out and going around the other foot. So alternating again, full and empty. Let the toes of the emptying leg really open and reach. And that will encourage the return. Same way, when we were doing the twisting, sitting down, we wanted to get all the way to the limit so that that limit could become elastic and bounces back. It's the same with the body everywhere. So I really stretch the toes, and then the only way they've got to go is back. So they sort of spring off that intensified limit. And now let's try the same thing, but with one foot forwards. So this exercise, this Qigong exercise we used to do in the warm-ups, is just basically that. My hand is with the energy that's coming out of the leg and then returning. So I can either have my mind with the weight that's coming from leg to leg, or I can have the mind with the arm, which is reaching out, which is associated with the leg on the same side, which is the emptying, the attacking. Again, when I release, I want the feeling it's releasing from the back, from the sacrum. And to get that, I need to sort of turn away from it to sort of expose my back a little bit. And then the same thing here. Whereas I sink forwards, this has to reach down the leg. And then here, reaching down, pulling back. reaching down, pulling back. This is one of the reasons we need to pull with the empty leg, because we want the leg, this leg is emptied. I want it to start filling immediately. So if I'm just pushing with this leg, it's like this is emptying before this is filling. And I don't want that. I want it the other way around, because it's only when I really fill one side can I really empty the other side. It doesn't work the other way. So if I really push here and then start pulling back, so this is filling now, and then this can empty. Let's try the other foot. So start off with the familiar, start off with what you know, and then just investigate it. And then back to riding horse. Again, I want to just let this come forwards a little bit and Now let's try that sumo leg stamping without stamping the leg. So leaning in order to pick up this foot. Now, this is really good. You don't want it to be too much of a balance exercise. So when I do it with my students, the basic, they can't do it very well. So I have a stool either side that they can just put their hand on. But this thing of lifting the leg with the hand, it just helps release across the sacrum, because this really does loosen the sacroiliacs. So you have to be careful. Then let's just squat down again. So with my students, this is what we do. We do a bit of that on one leg, and then I get them squatting down, and they always say, "Oh, it's so easy to squat down now." It's because the sacroiliacs have just opened up a little bit. Up. You imagine you've got that, you're really starving, and you come across a table covered in food, and that sort of that impulse to reach out, you reach out from your spine, your shoulder blades would come away, and you just gather as much as you could. That's like the greedy impulse. is all you can think about is getting as much as you can. Now we want the same sort of action with the legs. So this ability of the legs to just open in order to ostensibly pull the ground up, but actually I'm pulling myself down. So this feeling of just opening from here, the same way I can open from the back through the shoulder blades in order to get closer to the ground. So I'm pulling myself down. I'm not just waiting for gravity to do it. So, and I want to feel, the emotion, the greed. So it's like opening up, pulling down. It's a bit like I imagine, because I've never really done it, but being on a boat, like on a yacht or something, which is always listing unless it's really calm. And so imagine, they'd have to really grab the boat with their feet to get their center of gravity close, just so they have their balance. It's that quality here. I'm grabbing the ground and sucking myself down towards it. And that impulse, that action that actually does the grabbing and the pulling, comes from this opening across the sacrum. So it feels like I'm actually feeding with this part of my body. So all of these things, what's important is the feeling, the emotion. If physically you can't get down very much, it doesn't matter. It's like, it's just something opens from here. And then I just go down and grab, bite off a piece of the ground. Just notice how pretty much everything that we do physically, active-wise, takes us out of this vertical alignment. It's because the spirit is brought to bear upon the exercise that we're doing, rather than the spirit being out and scanning the world. So when we just let this come forwards a little bit and we slot into gravity, then my sacrum is pulled down. This is lifted. And suddenly I just notice where I am. Okay, now let's turn. But with that same feeling that I'm grabbing the ground. So normally when we turn, what we feel most is the centrifugal, which is this tendency for the flesh, the arms, to fly out and lift. Now I want to feel it really grabbing the ground. So my legs are pulling me down towards the ground as much as they are pushing me away from it. Just feel the turning, pure movement. The eyes blur. The eyes look inside, really, looking, swiveling in and looking down into the dantian. So you become very much peripheral vision. Your peripheral vision is coming from the back of the head in the same way that the arms stem from the back and the legs stem from the sacrum. The enemy really is habit, just habitual action going into like automatic pilot. So I really want to make sure that all of these movements are almost aggressive in their decisiveness. And then back to riding horse. And slotting into this vertical field. I feel the force of gravity tugging at my sacrum. I feel the call or the levity pulling here. And then just feel, you imagine the puppet and the string puppet. So those points that would need to have a string. So the head. So this sense here that something is pulling upwards. So you want that, when I tell my students, lightness on the top of the head, they sort of stiffen the neck. They produce the posture that they should have physically. That's what we don't want. You just want this feeling, whoa, there's like a lightness and interest. It just piques your interest. You just become so much fascinated in what's around you. And then it is like a stretching. It's almost like magic. It's like somehow you're being held up from here rather than from here. So that's the obvious one for the puppet. And also the hands. So the puppet man must be able to just pull two strings to pull the hands up. So when we lift our hands, we don't want it to come from the shoulders. The shoulders are actually dropping as my hands lift up. And they just feel really light and active, like a piano player's hands. And then the knees, so you'd need to have two strings attached to each of the knees. And so the puppet man will be able to just lift one knee and then place the foot, lift the other knee, place the foot, and give the impression that this puppet is walking. So here you can feel that lightness in the knees, like the knees just want to drift upwards. And that helps you sink down the spine behind them. The more you can get this sense of lifting with the knees, the more you'll actually go down. So lightness here, lightness in the hands, lightness in the knees. So they're the important places. And now let's just lift the foot. So remember how we go into the foot, so round. Big toe goes down, then I come round the back of the heel, around the outside edge, and then back through to the big toe, which is pressing down. So all the time I'm trying to drift in that direction with my weight so that I stay in the outside edge. My fear and my anxiety will tend to pull me in and cause this foot to drop so that I have better balance. So I'm drifting out and I'm sinking down. This outside edge is like a scoop that cuts into the ground and gathers up the ground. And then I step out, really extend the foot, big toe down, and then bend that leg to pull yourself into the foot around. There's not two minds. There's a mind that's sort of fearful, that's tending to want to gather in and hide, and another mind that's really inquisitive, that just wants to reach out. So we have to try and just let that inquisitive mind overpower the other one. So there's part of me that's just expanding outwards, letting go, releasing into the world. We just want to see how letting go, it's difficult because it's frightening, it's dangerous. To let go foolhardily is likely to hurt. So something in me just has to be able to just trust. I have to be able to trust this foot I'm standing on, and just trust this sort of centrifugal, this expansion, and just connect with it. And we just want to appreciate how that trust, it requires spirit. It's not a passive thing. I'm not just letting go of something that wants to go away from me. I'm trying to push something out that wants to cling to me. So I'm really having to expand and push this thing away from me. All the time, we're just trying to find exercises that force us to become a little bit more awake, more spirit, and balanced ones are just great. And so the problem with all of these is that we can quite easily just tense up in order to give the appearance of being balanced, just lock out all movement. It's the opposite of that. I'm constantly relaxing, expanding across the sacrum, and then it just becomes so wobbly. It's the problem, you know, it's just so difficult nowadays, especially with young people. People of our age, they say, I can remember the analog world. I can remember reality before it became digital. So the thing about the real analog world is, you know, it is dangerous and it requires spirit to actually survive it and navigate it, whereas the digital world doesn't. That's why people like it so much, because they can lose the real world and just focus in on this completely artificial man-made world. And there's just no spirit. And so this is why people, you know, there's so many people are just depressed and anxious and just tired. It's because that deep part of themselves that makes them a living creature is just never really exercised. I remember once in Highgate, you know, we'd just finished the weights like 2 o'clock in the morning and just getting ready to go home. And John comes in and he just says to me, do you want to do a bit of work? I says, oh, I'm too tired. I need to go home. And he said, look, if a beautiful naked woman walked up those stairs and came towards you, suddenly you'd have a lot of energy, wouldn't you? I thought, yeah, you're right. One of my favorite sayings of his, well, you say, never give in to tiredness. It's always an illusion. For the instant, it's always an illusion. So if you can always find some energy that will actually bring this moment alive. Okay, you may pay for it later with absolute exhaustion. That's all we're looking for, just something that I have to really listen and wake up. Let's just try that little bit of the form again, just to apply what we've been working on. First, let's just do a little bit of this one. So just getting this turn and moving the weight into the foot that has the heel coming up. So just the feet are just becoming active, really. And then into the form. So round the foot, this foot lifts, and then I reach out. So now I'm with the energy. The weight is here, but I'm with the movement, with the energy, the hand, foot going out. And then I just let that pull back in. And now the energy expresses here. And I just bring that round. And then just relax the wrists. And now the puppet man. Feel that lightness in the wrists that enable them to float upwards. And then switch the mind to the elbows. Oh, they're heavy. And they come in and down. Now again, the weight is here, but I want to be with the energy. So the hand is going out, pulling in. Now this hand is going out because the weight's coming into this foot. That comes in, this hand reaches up a bit, and then step. Round the foot. This foot comes up, And then I really reach out with the foot. Round, the energy pulls back in, which enables the other foot to express the energy, which circles round. Relax the wrists, and now just with your mind, just lighten the wrists. And they just float up. And then heavy elbows. And then my weight is doing the figure of 8 around this foot, but the energy is doing the figure of 8 around the other foot. Okay, let's try again and add on the ward off right. Releases this one, so the energy can express in it. The weight comes into this leg, so the energy can express here. It's really difficult using mind. It takes a long time to realize that mind has got nothing to do with thinking or seeing images. Okay, now someone's coming in from this corner. So you turn and reach. So they're attacking with their right hand, but you're yielding with your left now. So you just hand on top of their wrist. And then this hand comes in. And then step. And now you break the arm. So this is towards the corner. If they try yielding out of that, or you just want to follow through, you just turn here and crush them down. Yeah, so it's almost got a feeling that you're lifting someone up and then crushing them down. So let's just try that. I'll do it pacing here. Yeah, so what we want to do, we're in the left leg, so we want to come into the right leg in order to yield here. But there just isn't enough time to swap legs too much. So I stay in this leg and go completely into the leg. I reach, yield, this hand comes up, cradles the arm, and then I step, and now breaking the arm here, scissors, snap. The only way they have of getting out of that is to bring their elbow up like this. And so I just follow that and then just bear down on them with my weight. So from ward off left, I've got 70% in my left foot. So put everything in the left foot. Reach and yield. Step, break the arm, and then just turn to face the side. Yeah, so it's a bit different than ward off left. Ward off left, the ward off is like a normal ward off with your wrist facing here. This has got a straighter arm. Okay, let's try the other side. Round the foot. This becomes empty, and if it's empty, then it can move, it can express energy. And then it can pull the weight into it, so the other side can express energy. The mind has to just get used to switching endlessly between full and empty. step and scissors, and then just round. Let's try it one more. Coming back to riding horse. Slotting into the field of gravity, so the sacrum coming forwards. Feeling the split here. Yeah, so the more I feel that split, the more it will tend to bring me onto all fours. So there's always a fine line in all of these things, like a balance between opposing forces. So my opening is tending to make this happen, to pull me forwards, but my sinking is drawing this down so that this can rise up. Looks great. When you get that vertical, right, it almost feels like you're sitting on something and you could actually lift your legs up and wave them round. Okay, let's bring the feet together. So toes, big toes touching, but the heels definitely out. Give a sense of this spreading. No, smiling sacrum. It's smiling on this plane. It's also smiling on this plane.